a Charities Commission report has just come out, and it's found that basically Hannah Ingram Moore and her husband plundered her father's memory for their own benefit. The headline in The Sun this morning just says, shameless. A report reveals that Captain Tom's daughter kept £1.5 million worth of book cash, £90,000 in gin profits, and demanded a £150,000 salary to run his charities. And that's before the family's mansion, an illegal spa building, was improved upon, shall we say, and built. Let's talk to Andrew Tettenborn, who's a writer and academic. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Morning, Graham.
There was a time, I suppose, when this family, and certainly Hannah Ingram Moore, was one of the most despised women in Britain. I remember when they appeared, she and her husband appeared on Piers Morgan's programme and sort of tried to justify what it was that they had done. And it was one of those kind of car crash interviews that you just thought, why did you even think that people would believe a word you're saying?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And I think this report from the Charity Commission, which I looked through this morning, is one of the most salutary reports I've seen from it for a very long time indeed. Because what it reminds people of is that if you're involved in the running of a charity, there's more to it than getting the kudos of being involved in a good cause. It actually involves very considerable obligations. Yeah. And in particular, it involves the obligation not to see it as an opportunity to make money on the side. And, well, we're being careful about libel, but it does seem from this report that the Ingram Moore family viewed this very much in the way of the accountants they were, as an opportunity to make quite a bit on the side.
Absolutely.
Even in the first year when the charity was in operation, there was an interesting figure produced, which I don't think appears in this report, which was that it spent something like £160,000 on good causes. Its running costs amounted to well over 200,000,
yes,
paid to various people involved. And what we have in this report is that, a contract for 3 books was agreed, very much working on the reputation of Captain Tom. The payment for these books was made to a private company, which had been set up about a month earlier by the Ingram Moores. The other, I think, rather telling thing, which I haven't heard mentioned this morning yet, was an appearance fee, which was paid to Captain Tom's daughter, clearly as a result of her connection with the Captain Tom charity. The appearance fee was £20,000. Yes. I think the charity saw precisely £2,000 of that. That, at the risk of being particularly nasty, that's nice work if you can get it.
Well, it isn't bad, is it? And that appears to be the way that this was all done. I mean, you're right to say that there's no sort of criminal element to any of this at the moment. I mean, as far as Penguin are concerned, who gave the £1.4 million advance for the book, they say there is nothing here suggesting fraud, but it is more a moral issue than a legal issue.
Oh, well, that's absolutely right.
That's quite generous of them, isn't it, though?
Yeah, well, of course it is. The Ingram Moore family, they can't understand this because they say, well, we didn't literally have our fingers in the till, so that's okay. What they tend to forget is actually, even in law, if you're involved in the running of a charity, and in particular, if you're involved in the running of a charity as a trustee, you owe legal duties not to use your position as a means to line your own pocket. Right. And it seems that was what happened here.
I mean, does that suggest to you, I don't know, whether the Charity Commission should be better at kind of monitoring these kinds of charities that get set up on a whim? You know, obviously there are long-term charities like Save the Children and Oxfam that everybody knows about, but when suddenly a charity emerges out of one particular instance, like Captain Tom, should the Charities Commission be a bit better at kind of policing it, if you like?
Possibly, but I'm not sure if we want a great deal more regulation here. Actually, what I take away from this is that this is a very good example of the way in which proper digging by the media can actually stimulate the Charity Commission into operation and cause scandalous situations like this to be brought into the open. I'd be a little bit worried about people saying, well, you know, if it moves, it clearly needs to be regulated more. I think here, actually, the media need to take quite a pat on the back.
Yes, and we don't get that very often, so I'm very happy to accept that on your behalf. And what happens now, because I'm reading in the Sun's version of the story, the Captain Tom Foundation last night asked for the cash back immediately and without the need for further action. So I presume there is still some money that hasn't been properly allocated.
Well, I've no doubt there is, and I suspect we're going to see, if not litigation, argument between the lawyers. The Captain Tom Foundation itself is now effectively dead. And I think probably the other takeaway we get is that if you're thinking of giving to that sort of good cause, you'll have to look for another charity and ask some awkward questions. How much do you pay your CEO? And how much of my money is actually going to go to those good causes?
Yes. I mean, to be fair, that applies to all charities. I always say that to people. I mean, I'm a great believer in sort of local charities, not so much a great believer in the big multinationals, because they do take an awful lot of their money that you give them in admin fees. You know,
they do.
As much as 75 or 80% of it.
Yeah, the thing is, Mike, that's another problem, that charities increasingly see themselves as businesses. And in particular see themselves in businesses as regards the amounts of money they have to pay to their CEOs. They always, of course, say rather primly, oh, well, we've got to make sure we get the best, so we've got to pay corporate salaries.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
I've never been entirely convinced about that.
No.
And certainly when I give to one of the big charities, one of the things I do check is how much the CEO is paid, and is he pretending to be a captain of industry? And if he is, then I'm likely to go onto the website of another charity, and I'd advise any of your listeners to do exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely right. Andrew, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.